Michael Neeley is a mentor and business strategist for visionary entrepreneurs and solopreneurs. He is a former professional actor and a medieval knight, an author and speaker, and he hosts the podcast Consciously Speaking and By This, Not That, and Something to Whine About. His passion is waking people up, and he does it by coaching heart-centered entrepreneurs in finding their gift, growing their voice, and stepping into the spotlight in a big way. Michael is also a mindset master with a gift for helping people to get out of their own way. If you're tired of being the best-kept secret, you'll probably want to connect with him soon. You can learn more about him at www.michaelneeley.com or at www.yourauthorityblueprint.com. And I dropped a link into the comments for everyone to go check out because this event is going to be epic. Michael, you ready to rock this?
I am ready to rock it, Chris.
All right. Boom, dude. We are now live on Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self. Thank you so much for coming on today. Share about the event and all you got going on with our audience today, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. Definitely. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I'm excited, man. Thank you for having me here. I'm impressed that you do these 12-hour marathons. You're a wild man.
That's right, baby. Stamina.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive right into the theme of the day, which today is evolution. So, Michael, how are you evolving yourself, your community, your industry? How are you building a legacy for the area of the world that you're focused on?
Yeah, man. Well, there's so many layers to that question because I've even have, as we talk about evolution, I've got some personal evolution going on for myself and relationship wise with my wife. I've got, the evolution going on with my business, evolution going on as a father, and so many levels. But let's tap in that last part, I think is where I'd like to start with it is like, the impact in the world and what's up for me in a big way. And that is kind of as I started my podcast, the one you mentioned, Consciously Speaking, my goal with that, my mission was to help wake people up. And ultimately, people are the planet. I mean, to wake up the people, you wake up the planet.
Yes.
And so what I, presented with Consciously Speaking was different ways of thinking and being, mindful living, consciousness in a way that I know that not every message is going to reach home with someone, but it will reach it with someone else. And so I try to bring on a variety of different guests to tap into that nerve, that will go, oh yeah, wait a minute, let me think about this differently. And I, obviously as a solopreneur, I can only do so much. I can only reach so many people. Yeah. But as I was creating this business and this foundation, I started to grow my own authority. And then I realized people were asking me, well, how did you grow that so fast? And how did you start to get invited on these other stages and everything else that you're doing? And so I started sharing about how to do that. And I realized I can have a bigger impact by helping other message bearers, torch bearers, if you will, carrying the message forward to create bigger and bigger ripples out in the world. And so that's really what I'm up to right now is helping people with a great message to get it out in a massive way.
Wow, dude, that's powerful and amazing. I think that's one of the best ways to create leverage. If we want to leverage our time, our impact, is to help other people who have big dreams, big desires, is to invest our time and energy with the other people who are committed to doing the same thing, the making the impact. And, not everyone is meant to be that teacher, but, if we can all associate with big visioned people, I think that's the magic sauce right there.
Totally. And you know what? And I'd be happy if, on my deathbed, I know that at least one person's life was made a little bit better by the work that I do. I mean, that would be satisfying to me. And of course, I hope that's more than that. But man, even if just someone just got out and touched one person's life, imagine the impact of that.
Yeah, and then it ripples through them because they want to carry that spirit of, hey, I got helped, I gained benefit, I want to give this to others, I want to carry this on to others. So, dude, that's so beautiful, and I love the work that you're doing. I'm very much so in alignment with that, getting all these amazing guests and experts, their message out to more people, because the world, like you said, it needs that healing, and these people are hungry to get their message out. So let's help them out, and that's what we're doing. So why don't you share a little bit more about the work that you're doing, and if you want to go in depth more with your shows or anything like that, or we could just jump back into the journey of how it all got started. Wherever you want to go, let's go there.
Yeah, let's. What I'd like to start with is kind of a story for me that really had this major. It was a turning point for me, especially in this whole bit of authority and what that means even. And so let's go back 5 years. I had flown from California, where I live, to the East Coast, out to Virginia for a trade show. And, you know, I show up at the trade show and I've got my booth set up there and I'm, you know, doing my work, but I'm sitting there at one point and I start to feel this pain in my chest and shoulder area. And it started to get a little more intense as the day wore on, to the point where I finally said, man, I gotta go see a doctor about this. So I took off to urgent care. And as I'm even going to urgent care, I'm thinking, you know, I was working out really hard, lifting a lot of weights the last week leading up to this. I probably just strained something. And in urgent care, that's what I shared with the doctor there, and they did some x-rays and stuff. And they said, yeah, that's probably what you did. You strained a muscle. Here's some pain pills and go on your way. You know, so I'm back at the place. I go back to my hotel room, go to bed. About midnight, I wake up, Chris, and I couldn't even breathe. I mean, it was just very short breaths I could get into my lungs, and even each breath was so painful. And I called down to the front desk of the hotel and I said, I don't know what's going on here. I can hardly breathe, you know, help, essentially. And so the next thing I know, I'm being wheeled out of my room on a gurney, out of the hotel to an ambulance and off to the emergency room. And they did some further testing there, and they came to the conclusion that I had pneumonia. Wow. And so now they put me on these antibiotics, and, you know, the next day go back to the event, finish out the event, and I'm on my way to the airport to head home. And I go to the airport and the sliding glass doors open and I walk through and my phone starts to vibrate and I pick it up and there's a voice on the other end of the line that says, hello, is this Michael Neeley? And, you know, I answer as I always do when it's somebody I don't know who it is and they say that, I'm like, yes, you know, just in case it's some kind of a sales call or something. And the gentleman introduced himself as a doctor, and I can't even pronounce his last name. But he introduced himself and said, I'm one of the doctors from the urgent care that you visited. I'm not the doctor that you saw, but I'm, you know, work there at that urgent care. And how are you doing? And so I said, well, you guys were off on your diagnosis. It wasn't a strain. I actually had pneumonia. Ended up in the emergency room that night, shared a little bit of that story with them. And there was a silence on the other end of the line. And then he says, do me a favor, don't get on that plane. I'm going to call you back in a couple minutes. And so my question to you, and of course anybody who's listening right now, is do you think I got on that plane?
No.
No, hell no. No, because this guy, he's a doctor, he's an authority. And so I trusted and listened to what he had to say. And so for me, that was kind of a turning point about, like, you know, having that element of authority gives such credence to what you do, and it gives you the power to impact people more deeply. And so that's when I started to, you know, use this work as I built what I do now, which is the authority blueprint, information of how to actually build your authority in a way that catapults you onto the scene quickly and powerfully. And so I'll cut to the chase here. Yeah. And what happened. In case you're wondering. So I wait a few minutes. He gives me a call back and he says, get back to the emergency room right now.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, why? What's going on? He says, I don't think you have pneumonia. I had to call the hospital to check on some other stuff. He says, I think you had a pulmonary embolism. And so I'm back to the emergency room right away. And sure enough, after some testing, they find it was a pulmonary embolism. And for anybody who may be watching, listening, who doesn't know what that is, it's a blood clot that moves from your leg up into your lung. And most of the time, people die from that, like, you know, on the spot. I was very fortunate and super fortunate that this guy saved my life, that I didn't get back on that plane, because that'd have been it, man. I'd have been gone. And so, so at the hospital the next day, this doctor comes in, this beautiful Nigerian man who saved my life. And I just had to ask him, I'm like, what prompted you to even look, to call me, to take your own time to do that? And he said something to me, Chris, that stuck with me ever since. It goes beyond being the authority, but also about more than that. But he said, I like to treat every patient as though they are my family, as the way I would want my family to be treated. And as if they were my brother or sister or child. And I just kind of want to share this story, not just in the fact of the authority, but that whoever you serve, this goes for anybody listening in your tribe and yourself too, man. So I know you do this with your people, that you treat your tribe like family. And that's so important. And that has stuck with me to this day. And this is the way that I treat my people as I try to help them then grow that authority. Because as I mentioned before, just having that authority and the one little shift you can have somebody make can save their life. Maybe not, save them from the grave, like this doctor saved me, but you can save them from heading down a wrong path, or you can save them years of time, or you can save them financial woes, or whatever it is. Build your authority to the point that people will listen to you and that your medicine that you're delivering is impactful, and treat everybody like your family. And so for me, man, that was a big shift.
Wow. Dude. I think the proof is in the pudding, so to speak, with you sharing. Not only did you experience this event where it's like you got to see authority right in front of you, but you want to help people have the level of power that this doctor had with you, and the impact, right? At the deepest level what it feels like to have your life saved. So now you want to share that feeling that you had and the gratitude that you expressed towards this man with everyone else who has a message, who has a calling, who has a gift to share with the world. Because while people may not be necessarily saving lives, it could be solving years of pain, years of heartache, years of struggle, or who knows what other kind of consequences. And I just really acknowledge you for the work that you're doing, man, because it's helping light up the world with consciousness, with love, with people being able to get their message out, man. It's really special.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. And that's the work that you're doing too. It's like you're helping people to become their best possible self. And that's so vital. If we imagine a world where everybody's stepping into that, and that we're supporting each other into stepping into that, that's an incredible place I'd want to live. That's right,
man. So, dude, we got the picture of why you created this, why it's so important to you. So why don't you share a little bit more about the evolution into what it is today, or just the pillars and what people get when they become an authority, when they choose to make that decision. What can they expect? What's the framework like? What does it happen? How does it happen? What's the process?
Yeah, it's one of those things which I think frequently happens in this kind of an industry, where as a coach or someone who's paying attention as we're growing our business or doing what we do, we notice things along the way and we go, oh, that really worked well. And as we look back in hindsight, we go, oh, you know what, maybe I landed on something new or discovered something different. Because seriously, for me, people were going, dude, how did you get so many downloads so far? How did you end up on these stages, like you and I meeting at icons of influence, being icons of influence at New Media Summit? People are asking me, how did you end up there? And so for me, it was almost like I stumbled upon it, but I think it's because it was such a natural flow anyway that I think a lot of people miss. And so what I consider like the 4 foundational pillars of authority are podcasting, virtual summits, speaking from stage, and authoring your own book. And so, of course, I started out with the podcasting bit, and that just it's such an easy entry level thing to get into, simply because it doesn't cost a ton of money and you don't have to have a whole lot of experience to do it. And quite frankly, you don't even have to have a lot of knowledge, because there are people out there whose podcast is solely based on them asking the experts questions. So it's, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. And it's a great place to start to grow your tribe, to build the know, like, trust factor, to get people to, want to listen to what you have to say. And then that so naturally flows into a virtual summit, which for maybe anybody who's listening doesn't know necessarily what a virtual summit or telesummit is. It's simply a combination of expert interviews packaged a little bit differently than a podcast. But quite honestly, it's like a podcast. For my summit I did is audio only. but they're very specific guest experts surrounded by a common thread or topic. My particular one was called the Conscious Life Summit. So I picked 12 areas of life and had 2 experts in each of those areas to talk, conscious thought leaders in those areas, to talk about consciously doing that item, whether it's conscious parenting or conscious relationships or what have you. But you could do a summit on the paleo diet. You know, you just round up a bunch of people who are paleo diet experts. Point being is that you're now taking your podcast expertise and you're formatting it a little bit differently in a way that will help you to grow your list and even make some money, because typically these recordings, whereas a podcast is entirely free always, a virtual summit, people have a limited time to listen to it, let's say 48 hours. And after those 48 hours, if they want to then access the recordings later, they need to pay a small fee. Right. And so you can make money on it that way as well. And then one of the cool side effects of this, I call it the greatness by association effect, which is what Oprah Winfrey did. Oprah started out, she was just a television host interviewing people for her show. But she kept growing her level, because the better guests that she would get on, it would elevate her a little bit, and then more interesting guests would want to be on. It kept elevating her to the point now where she's bigger than most of her guests or all of them, you know? So there's a great thing to be said about this association, and you're building a wonderful network while you're doing those 2 things too, the podcast, the virtual summit. The third benefit of those is that you're also practicing your speaking skills. You know, you're doing it alone. You don't have to worry about being in front of a whole bunch of people. You're on a microphone, and like a lot of my episodes of my first season was just me and a microphone, not even a guest. I'm just talking. You know, so you get practice at it, and you start to hone your thinking. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced this too, that sometimes you might say something the first time and go, that wasn't exactly what I meant, but you know, and then you say it again maybe later and you dial it in a little more. So this starts to happen by doing these podcasts and virtual summits till finally you develop your signature talk. And now you're starting to get invited on people's stages, or you start doing your own talks, like little meetup groups where you start to do talks. And so that is such a natural segue. And then all of this leads finally into the 4th pillar, which is authoring your own book. And quite frankly, I talk to a lot of people who are going, well, I'm not a writer. Okay, great. Can you talk? Can you speak? Well, yeah, I love talking. Excellent. So what you can do is all these podcast episodes you've done, you can have them transcribed. And then you can hand these transcriptions off to an editor, and that editor can massage all of this into your book. So literally you've spoken your book into existence. And so that's why the flow is so natural. And then also the final piece of it, and this is why I tell people, a lot of them will come to me and go, well, I've already got a book in my mind. I want to write this book first. I've got it mostly written. I'm like, great, hold off on that. You know, because here's the thing. In your book, you want to reference your podcast. You want to reference that you're available for speaking gigs. You want to have your website links in there and other resources and lead magnets that people can get, because you want to have your book be a continuation of the conversation. A lot of times when people start with a book, they've got that, and then the book goes out in the world, but that's the end of it. The people get the book and they go, okay, great, thank you. But there's nothing leading them back into your other stuff to keep this engagement going. And so that's why I think it's important to have the book be the last of those elements so that you can weave them all together.
Wow, that's powerful. So can you go over the 4 pillars one more time for us?
Yeah. So the first one is podcasting. The second one is virtual summits. The third one is speaking from stage. And the 4th one is getting published.
Wow, it's beautiful. So why did you decide those 4 and not 3? Why not 5?
Right. Well, you know, potentially you could put something in there like blogging, but quite honestly, that's just another version of getting published. And I do recommend, even when I teach, you know, my program, is that, yeah, you can get published in the Huffington Post or Elephant Journal, Tiny Buddha, any of these other online magazines that is your audience. Yeah, get published there too. It all really helps and circles back. So that's kind of why I didn't go with the 5th. And I didn't drop down to 3, because I do love the way that they just play well together, you know, back and forth with each other.
Yeah, beautiful, man, beautiful. So in terms of creating your own event, like how did you go through this process kind of chronologically of first you were doing podcasting, then you did an online summit, then you did more speaking, then you authored your book, or how did it all unfold for you?
Yeah, for me, that is the order that it did. But let me just backstep a little bit, because before knowing that this was what I was going to do, I had done other events before, small events, like transformational type events that were based on my book concept that I created a workshop around. And my book, by the way, which will be out very shortly, hopefully, is called The Art of Forgetting. Okay. And it is basically a book to help people get beyond their limiting beliefs. And so I've developed a series of theories around our limiting belief systems, how they're built up, and how we can break them down to allow us to live into a life of greater possibility. And so I would do little workshops around that. So I knew what it was like to speak in front of people and to, do small events. And when I say small, we're talking, under 20 to 30 people. Right. The event I've got coming up now is going to be 150 to 200. So it's a big, massive difference. Yeah. But after I did that, and then I started to develop the podcast and all these other ideas and getting invited to speak on other people's stages, all the while I knew that what I was leading towards was to have my own live event. And so from there, that was kind of like the build that I knew, like my wife did her live events earlier. She just jumped right into the mix, boom, getting out of the gate. And she does quite well with them, but it's a bit of a different business model, because her live events, she's happy with a very small, tight-knit group, again, 30, 40, 50 people, whereas I wanted to go bigger. Yeah. And so that's why for to go bigger, I felt like I needed all of this other foundation to become the authority to make that fly.
Wow. That's beautiful, man. Beautiful. So the art of forgetting, it's all about getting beyond those limiting beliefs. How did that, how does that integrate with the authority blueprint? I'm curious, like, how did you, because those kind of seem like different realms, different kind of playgrounds. How did you get into the beyond, getting beyond those limiting beliefs? Why is that a part of your journey, as well as the authority? We heard the authority journey and why that became important for you. What about the limiting beliefs? Yeah,
no, that's a great question, Chris. And actually, it's something that is a vital element of my live event, even the one I'm doing now, is I call it a transformational business event. Because, and I'll be just real frank with people, I'm not trying to turn you off from getting a ticket and coming to my event, but the truth is there's probably very little, maybe nothing, that I will teach you there that you can't get for free online. I mean, so let me be real frank about that. Yeah. But it's kind of like this. Maybe there are people listening who go, yeah, I could stand to lose a few pounds. They may be thinking that. And I know that I could stand to lose a few pounds. And I also know that probably everybody who thinks that, they know how to lose the weight. We all know how to go on a diet. Just don't eat so much and work out a little more, Right. But we still have that issue. And it's the same thing in business. So while there may be nothing new that I can teach you, it may land to you. I mean, yeah, I'm what's the term I'm looking for? I am kind of like the person who works at the library to put it all together for you. I'm doing that piece. Right. But what I'm really going to be helping you with, and this is where my book piece comes in, is I'm going to help you at this event to get beyond your limiting beliefs that you can't do it. Wow. Yeah, that's I have to say, for most of us, that's probably 90% of the battle. Yeah. Is getting beyond our own, can I say BS? Yep. Okay, is getting beyond our own bullshit. Yep. To, that tells us we can't do it, or that holds us back. We make excuses and we blame it on this and blame it on that. And if you can get beyond that stuff, beyond that crap, your success is there waiting for you. So that's a big part of the event, will be about those elements. It'll be, definitely I'm going to teach you. You'll walk away with your blueprint and how to build your own authority, but you're also hopefully going to walk away with, getting beyond your own crap.
I love it. I love it. So in terms of those 4 pillars that you mentioned, what kind of work can people expect to do? What kind of progress should they expect to make at the event that's going to, really set them in the right direction? They're going to be like stoked about it. They're going to get through those limiting beliefs too. But, what kind of progress are they going to make?
Well, I think one of the big things is that they're going to be able to create this future vision for themselves. And it's kind of like what you talk about when you say becoming your greatest possible self, is that when we create a compelling future, we see ourselves as our best possible self. That's a future that draws us towards it. Yeah. And so that's one of the things that they're going to get with it. And they're going to get it in a way that it's delivered that they really grok. I don't know if that's a real word or not, but they grok it, like deep inside them. It's a word that I know a lot of people who use it in the personal development space. It's when you get something so deeply in your soul, more than just knowing it, but you get it inside you, that they're going to grok that they can really do this. And it's going to be fun in the process. I mean, we're going to have, folks like you there, doing podcast recordings so that people can see, oh, look, this is pretty easy. And I get to meet Chris and I get to be on his show and all this other stuff. We're going to make it fun. We're going to make it impactful. Well, and then top it off, we're going to be right there. It's an oceanfront hotel with one whole wall of the ballroom looking out over the ocean. So that part's just for fun.
That part's just for fun. I love it, man. So what do you see being the impact of your bringing these people together? They're learning how to become the authority, and then in the future, coming years, what do you see as the impact because of this work that you're doing? It's one of those types of things. It's really hard to quantify. I can position it from my hope. And my hope is that people will go out and be more effective in sharing their message, reaching more people, and not just in quantity, but in depth. I mean, again, it's like when this doctor, stopped me from getting on the plane. He had the authority, not even knowing the guy, but just knowing it's a doctor, that alone, it was impactful. Had it been a receptionist or somebody who had said, hey, we don't think you should get on the plane right now, I'm like, yeah, call me when I land in California or something, like that. I mean, I probably would not have given it much heed. Right. So I want people to have that kind of an impact so that when they share their message, their wisdom, their medicine with the world, that people take it in and that it really impacts them deeply and makes transformational shifts in the world and therefore in the planet. I love it. What's one of the biggest lessons you've learned from consciously speaking and getting that whole podcast going?
Oh man, yeah, that's a good question. I'm 345 episodes in, so I probably had so many lessons.
There's a lot of gold to mine in them there hills.
That is. So let's see, man. Gosh, I guess probably the best lesson I've got is go into each episode with an open mind. I've had some people in the show that I've thought, okay, this is really out there, like woo-woo stuff. But I try to always go in with an open mind, and it never ceases to amaze me. I am constantly impressed and enlightened by, new ways of thinking or being or seeing that I just was not even necessarily open to, but also didn't even know about. And so that's been a really fun journey for me to I've got people on who do Akashic Records readings. I don't even know if you know what those are or not, but okay. So like the Hall of Souls, and stuff like that. And past life regressionists and people who've had near-death experiences and what that was like. And so we tap into all of the really wild out there woo-woo stuff. People who do astral projections to other planets, in beyond our solar system even. So pretty wild stuff.
That's awesome, man. What inspired you to go down that specific route of consciousness?
Well, when I started it, and the whole reason I even started a podcast is I was working with a client on some of these breakthroughs that I talk about, the limiting beliefs, and we were having an awesome session. And I, just asked him, I said, do you mind if we record this? He's like, yeah, let's do it. And we played it back afterwards, and it sounded really good. And he even said, dude, you should start a podcast. And I didn't know what a podcast was even, I knew the word, like I wasn't an idiot or anything, but I didn't know how one worked. I didn't know, and this was 2014. I had never listened to one. Wow. And so, but 2 weeks later I launched my show. So that was one of those places too, where you just get out of your own way and just freaking do something. Yeah. And so what I launched it with, to answer your question, was the only thing I really knew was conscious thought, like how our minds work. And I knew a lot of people in that field who were other conscious thought leaders as well. And so I said, all right, well, let me start a show. We'll call it Consciously Speaking, and I'll start interviewing people who, are the friends that I know, conscious thought leaders. So I interviewed my Dharma teacher, our guiding teacher at Insight Santa Cruz, interviewed him. I interviewed, Diana Chapman, who's the author of the 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. So I started interviewing people in the space that I was aware of, and that's kind of how it evolved. That was really cool for me, but that's what prompted me to pick that particular topic and message and getting it out there. And then it just evolved from there. Then it got weirder and weirder and, and cool too. So
that's awesome. Yeah. It's like you said, coming with that open mind, it just really trains you to be like in childlike wonder of what is possible out in this world. How do people see the world and see the universe, and like, what am I naive to that's going on,
Totally. And Chris, that reminds me of even in my mission statement, one of the things that I said in my first episode, the introductory episode, is I said, my goal is not to have you believe everything that I say. I said, I might not even believe some of the stuff, but I just want to present you with the options, with the eye-opening opportunities to hear other thoughts. And some will land with you and some won't, and that's fine, but I hope you'll listen. So that was kind of like my mission in the beginning.
Wow, that's really cool, because you give people the choice of, do you want to believe this? Do you want to adopt this? Does it make sense for you? Try it on.
Yeah.
And see if it's a fit. Yeah, that's awesome. So where do you see it going moving forward? Like, how do you see the show evolving, moving forward in the coming years?
Yeah, I want to keep Consciously Speaking in a continuation as it is. It's totally evolved in the 3 seasons that I've had it. I started out when I did go big with it after I did a short relaunch, and I went to a 7-day-a-week show, which was insane.
Yes.
Kind of like what you're doing with these marathons, man. So I went to a 7-day-a-week show. I pulled it back to 3 days a week in season 2, and now I'm back to 1 day a week because I've launched other podcasts as well. So I have other interests too. But I plan to keep this thing going because it's so cool, and I continue to meet new and interesting people, and I love that, and I hope that it's still waking people up out in the world and still getting a lot of downloads, so I love that. So I'll keep that going, and it'll evolve kind of on its own and see what it wants to become.
That's awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah. What do you see as your biggest challenge in your evolution in the coming months and years?
Man, I think one of them for me is just, it can be tough on the entrepreneurial path to not get so caught up in the work, the trying to do better, be more, make more, all of that stuff, that you let go of your roots, which for me is this whole area of consciousness, conscious being. And I've just had kind of an epiphany over the last couple of weeks where I did almost like a 180-degree turn, where I realized I had started traveling down that path seriously in a very negative way.
Wow.
Even in my relationship with my wife, I was not being, I wasn't being a very good husband, to be quite honest. I was so immersed in my work. She would say, hey, let's go for a walk. And I'd be like, no, too busy, too much going on, and stuff like that. And so I was really, I was, I think, in a way, kidding myself, not consciously, but subconsciously kidding myself, thinking the work has to be this way.
It's supposed to be like this.
Yeah, it's an important thing, and I got to do this. And I was letting go of what was really important, which was my wife, my family, my relationship, myself, my spiritual stuff. I used to go on 5-day silent retreats. I hadn't been on one in probably 4 years now.
Yeah.
And so even just like the other night, a couple nights ago, we went to listen to some kirtan music of David Premal and Mitten and Manos. And just because I've had this turnaround, the shift, I sat in the chair and they started playing the music, and it just swept over me, just like this wave of emotion, letting me get back to my heart and my root. And just, it was so powerful. And so I would say that's the lesson I'm learning, and I would say for anybody else out there, just be careful and just hang on to your roots, and keep it balanced.
Wow, man. So I'm curious, what is it about the the business side that you feel like doesn't cooperate with consciousness? Like, do you feel like they go hand in hand, or do you feel like they're separate and really challenging to mix both of them?
Yeah, it's another great question, because it's actually a combination of both. Like, there are lots of businesses out there that are totally unconscious. And there is this movement going on where they're trying to blend more. Conscious capitalism is a big thing right now, and conscious leadership is becoming bigger and bigger. And then, of course, that's the blend. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have people who are so into the consciousness that they don't think they should make money. And which is sad, because if you don't make money, you cannot reach as many people. Or unless you have some other way in which to do that. I mean, like, if you're, Mother Teresa or something, then maybe you can. Right. But it's a challenge. And I say it's okay to have both. And so I think the blending that's happening is really cool. And at the same time, there's still some people out there. I remember, I gotta share this little funny story. People in year 2, people started coming out of the woodwork and wanting to be on my show, Unconsciously Speaking. And I was approached by this one guy. And, what I do is I check out their website and I see if it looks like they're a good fit. Well, his website was what is called a squeeze page. And for people who don't know a squeeze page, it means it's the only page there is. There's nowhere else to go except sign up for his program. It was a sales page. And all it was sell, 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 sell. And I'm like, I wrote back to him and I said, my audience is more about consciousness and awakening and stuff. And I don't think you're fit. And he wrote back and said, do you know how conscious you have to be to build an awesome funnel? I'm like, consciousness and simply awake don't mean anything. It's not the same thing. So, yeah. He thought that was consciousness, and I'm like, no. My people aren't going to your sales page. Go to a page that just tells them about who you are. What do you love? What are you up to in the world? Not trying to sell them on some hype. So, anyway, yeah, there's still that end is out there.
What do you think your next big breakthrough is going to be in terms of being an authority?
Ultimately, for myself, I want to be speaking on bigger and bigger stages, having my own bigger and bigger events. And so this year, my goal is setting it to 150 to 200 people. Next year, I'd like to take it 200, 250, and grow it from there. I'm a bit long in the tooth to be pursuing, like the career like Tony Robbins has had. But I think for me, ultimately I'd like to grow to about serving a group of 1,000 at a time, because I think that's a good amount where I can get the message out there but still feel connected to everybody. I love that connection. I mean, literally, when I go to other people's events, I tend to know everybody's name, because I try to make a connection and I remember who they are. And so for my own event, I'm sure that's going to be the thing. I'm probably going to know the names of all 150, 200 people in the room.
That's awesome. What do you see as like who do you have to become that 1,000-person, room filler and speaker and transformational expert? Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, because that's that creating that future vision. Like, who do I need to become to do that? I think, as long as I keep my heart open and I pay attention to what I learn and I share that in a heart open way, that it touches in other people, that they get it. They get two things. One, they get the delivery of the message and the learning from it, but also that they get my caring, and then they can carry that forward into the world. Because sometimes too, I think just caring for someone, when they can feel that from you, that motivates people. Then they're like, oh, he really cares. Okay, I'm going to make this happen.
They know they're not alone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You nailed it.
Yeah, that's huge, man. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. So, in terms of you becoming your greatest possible self, what do you think, what role do you think your audience plays in you becoming your greatest possible self?
Wow. Probably just about everything. No, because seriously, when you think about it, I mean, outside of my wife and my son, who am I doing any of this for? I'm not doing it for myself. I'm doing it for the people that I serve. And ultimately, I want to make a living at it, which therefore then supports me having time with my wife and my son. But still, without the people to serve, I'm nobody. And it's kind of, I equate this, one of the books that I recommend to my students and people is Think Like a Rock Star. And I love it because it teaches people, and I think it's very important for podcasters to know in general, to look at your I'm trying to avoid giving the word away, but not playing the old word. But let's say your tribe, your people, your followers, look at them not as customers, but as fans. And so when you think like a rock star doesn't go there looking at like, oh yeah, these people are just numbers, you know, and like they collect money from them. They're looking at, these are my fans.
Yeah.
And they treat them as such. And like, you know, Lady Gaga is a great example, you know, her fan club, the Little Monsters, you know, stuff like that. They have a name, they're a tribe, they're a community about that. And so for me, I think that's such an important element to trust in too, because I think the real rock stars get that without their fans, they are nothing. You know, they're just a garage singer, you know, nobody with no audience. And so it's the same in our business that we're in, that I'm in, that without the people that I serve, I'm just serving myself.
Yeah. What does it look like to treat them like a fan? What does that look like, you know, in reality? What actions can we take as authorities, as hosts, leaders, influencers?
Yeah, I think for one is talk to them individually. This is another element of, I think, being a good podcast host is remember that when you're speaking to people, you're not speaking to a crowd like, you know, hey, everybody, you know, you're speaking to one person. And so I try to always think of that. Who's that one person I'm speaking to? And so I think that's important. And then the other piece is that when they do interact with you, man, interact with them. That's like, you know, the celebrity who becomes so caught up in themselves. They're like, you know, go, leave me alone, kid. I'm not giving any more autographs and stuff. I mean, there are some celebrities that are like that. And then there are others who will sign every last autograph, even if they're, you know, there till well past midnight. So I think it's important to treat your tribe, like I said, like family, and, you know, respond to their emails, talk to them, honor that, because that's why we're here.
It's beautiful. I know one of the questions that we got the opportunity to kind of brainstorm on at the mastermind, the Icon Mastermind, was like, what's the future of podcasting? What's the future of being an authority? So I'm curious what you see in the future that you're either preparing for or that you're anticipating or just contemplating about.
Yeah. Well, I think podcasting is going to continue to rock. It's on an upward trajectory, and I think it's going to stay that way for a while because people are hungry for knowledge, and it's a great, easy way to get new knowledge that can be consumed, even entertainment. I mean, it's also good for entertainment, but there's a lot of wisdom to be heard out there in the podcast world. So that's one thing I love about it. For myself, you know, I've got this new podcast just ready to launch, the Something to Whine About show, which is totally a passion project. It's not a business thing for me at all. It was birthed at New Media Summit with another fellow podcaster there when we talked about our passion for wine. And we're like, we should do a show on this.
Oh, come on, Michael. You know you just want to write off the wine as a business expense.
That too, you know. That's one of I added that to my list of ways to make money podcasting, because for me, money saved is money earned, and so that's another way to make money with your show. So I definitely see that as being something really cool. And then with my live events, I love meeting with people live. There's something that happens in a room that can't happen on the internet or on a one-on-one or any other setting than in a large group. When you get that group energy and that transformational soup going on, that is beautiful. And so I can see myself ultimately doing more than one event a year even, and build that up too. So these are some of the things that I see in my future that are exciting me.
Wow. How much do you factor in the different countries that you reach with your podcasting content, stuff like that? Like, do you mainly focus on the United States, or do you have a global approach, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, you know, I've been listened to now. I think the last I checked, my podcast has been downloaded in over 169 countries.
Wow.
And I mean, some of it's just 1 or 2 downloads, but somebody in Zimbabwe goes, "What is this podcast do?" Bad accent, but so that's just an oddity. Quite honestly, probably 95% of my downloads are all here in the United States.
Yeah.
I do have some people who reach out to me from the UK, New Zealand, Australia, and hopefully some people from those countries will show up to my event as well. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
So I do see there being, as it grows, it could be more of a global impact, which leads me to also say about podcasting that it feels to me it's like a long tail type of a business thing. It's like it's going to be there for a long time and continue to grow slow and smooth. You just keep watering it and nurturing it and just let that happen naturally and don't try to rush or force it. And so who knows what it'll be 5-10 years from now.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Incredible, man. So in terms of the event that's coming up, what are the dates again for our audience, just so they know?
Yeah, it's June 25th, 26th, and 27th.
Okay.
And there's an opening night cocktail party the night before on the 24th.
Okay.
And for anybody who's looking on their calendars and stuff, this is a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday event. Now, I know a lot of these events are Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but I look at it like this. This is geared towards solopreneurs, people who are in business for themselves, really. Yep. And hopefully you understand it's a work conference. So I want you to have your weekend with your family. Take Friday, Saturday. You can actually still come out to the hotel Friday, Saturday, Sunday and hang out and enjoy the beach there in Monterey. And then cocktail party Sunday night, and come Monday morning, we're going to start into the work and transformation. So.
Awesome. And then is there anything else you wanted them to know about the event that you either haven't shared yet or just other details that you wanted to recover and make sure that they heard again?
Yeah. So there are some other really cool things about the event. So as much as I can teach you about creating your authority blueprint and becoming an authority in your topic, there are still some things that are going to support that business, because those 4 elements, that's just going to catapult you onto the scene. You're still going to need something to sell. You're still going to need to learn some other stuff in the business realm that will support your growth. And so I'm bringing in some guest speakers that will teach on how to create an online program, which I think is super valuable, because one of the things I hate for people to get caught up in is this time for money situation. Because when you're working on that model, you've only got so many hours in a week, and you're going to burn yourself out if you want to make more money. But if you have a product like an online course that you can sell, now you're scalable, and literally you can start to make money while you sleep. So we're going to teach a bit about that too, how to get that set up. We got an expert speaker on joint venturing. Jay Fazette is going to be speaking on that topic, and Jay is brilliant in this realm, also a good friend and loves wine too. And and Jay is going to, on our opening night on that Monday evening, we're going to do a whole JV, I wouldn't call it a retreat, but an exercise where you will meet and connect with people who are in your industry that you can create partnerships right now with to support each other in growing your business.
Beautiful.
So that's going to be a really fun, cool bonus. Obviously, podcasters like yourself will be there doing their show stuff, interviews. That's going to be fun. And we'll even do some live streams leading up to the event where participants and even people who are thinking of signing up can get on board and pitch to see if they can be in any of these shows. So that'll be happening. I've got singer-songwriter Tiamo Di Vittori is going to be there, and he's going to be doing some live music on stage for us and sharing some stories. So that's going to be fun. It's just going to be a rocking event. The lunches and dinners, if people upgrade to like a first class ticket, which I highly recommend, and we'll talk more about that a little bit, but first class ticket, they get lunch, they get dinner, they get a free bottle of wine, because I love wine, in case you couldn't guess yet. So they get that included in the first class ticket price, all of these extra things for getting a first class ticket. And so there's going to be, each of these lunches and dinners, there's going to be guest speakers as well, teaching people other elements that are important. We've got Eiji Morishita from the Movement Makers, and Natalie Chaperon, who is an image consultant. She's my own image consultant. She helped me with my colors and everything. She's awesome. Yeah, we've got Jane Powers is going to be there. Tiffany Largy is going to be there. It's just going to be one smoking cool event. Yeah.
Awesome, man. I love it. I'm so excited just thinking about it, man.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to have you and Petia there. Am I pronouncing that right? Petia or
Petia? Yeah, Petia.
Petia. Petia. Work on my pronunciation.
That's perfect.
I'm excited to have you guys there.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, man. So, beginning to wrap this up, what is the final message you want our audience really receiving from this interview? Becoming an authority, becoming conscious, and let's lay it on them, man.
Yeah. Okay. So this is it in a nutshell.
Yes.
You who are watching and listening right now, Chris and I talking right here. We're only talking right here because we were at a live event together where we met each other. That is the power of live events. So come to this event. You will be amazed at the connections you'll make. Well, first of all, you get to meet Chris and I in person, which is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And you're going to make other connections that you don't know where they can lead to. And I go to like 13 or 14 live events every year.
That's right.
Yeah, it's just such a great opportunity. So if you're not going to live events, you need to change that. It's where you seriously, you will grow your business so much more. And I'm not even saying just mine. Of course, I'd love to have you in mine, but go to lots of them.
Yes.
That's where business happens. Okay, so please don't forget that. And I would love to have you at mine, and so much so that Chris and I talked about this. We want to give you a super smoking hot price. Yes. Right now, the tickets are on sale at the early bird special. Like the first class tickets, normally $1,997. That's about $2,000. It's on sale right now, early bird special, for just $497.
Beautiful.
Okay, now that's a steal alone right there. Again, you're getting your 3 lunches, 2 dinners, bottle of wine, a deluxe swag bag, first class seating, all of that stuff. We're going to even take that down by another $200. Okay, so literally knock it down to $297. When you go to the checkout page, and Chris will have the link below here so you can see it. When you go to the checkout page, there will be a coupon code down at the bottom. Type in BEYOUR, YOUR, GPS, Be Your GPS, greatest possible self, and then hit the check mark button. That'll knock it from $497 down to $297 for a first class ticket.
Boom.
There's business class, which does not include the dinners or the bottle of wine. If you want to go that, it's $100 less. But trust me, 2 dinners and a bottle of wine, that's worth well over the $100 difference. Okay, yes. So it's just a no-brainer to get the first class ticket. And here's the big deal. And this goes back to this whole family thing. Okay, I want you there. And if my family members said, hey, I want to be there, I would say, okay. And if they say I can't afford it, I just don't have the money, money's tight right now, whatever the reason, because I know it's going to cost you to get there. And it's probably going to cost you for the hotel or Airbnb or wherever you stay. If you want a free ticket, there is a button right below the regular ticket pricing. Click on that and use the code. You'll still need to do a seat deposit, but I think with that code, it'll become $97 and you get that back at the door. The only reason the seat deposit's even there is just to guarantee that you're going to show up, because otherwise a lot of people sign up and they don't show, and I'm thinking there's going to be, oh, we've sold out, and then they don't show. That's crazy. So a $97 seat deposit, you get it back at the door. I want you there. Chris wants you there. It's going to be amazing for you.
Yes, we do. And it is absolutely going to be amazing. Michael, you are an incredible human being. What you do in the world, the heart that comes through everything you do, man, I acknowledge you and all the light that you're bringing to these people's lives, not only who listen to your show, but this event and everyone who you work with, who you coach. And you have another show that we didn't really talk about today, Buy This, Not That. So like you're doing all sorts of amazing projects, businesses, and ways to impact the world, man. And seriously, if people can have that, a fraction of what you're doing and achieve that, I think that a lot of people would consider that success. So I acknowledge you, man. Keep up the amazing work.
Thank you, brother. And likewise, we just met recently, so I'm getting to know about all the stuff you're doing, and I am so impressed.
Thank you.
You are knocking it out there. You are rocking. You got that young man energy that I don't have that kind of energy necessarily. So kudos to you, man. But I appreciate what you're doing and the lives that you're impacting and touching.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And we will see you at the event. Everyone, definitely go to the bit.ly/BYGPS/YABL and then put in the Be Your GPS code so you can get that ticket. And we will see you at the event. And Michael, keep becoming your greatest possible self, man.
You got it, man. Take care, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
All right. We'll see you soon.